Someone call the meeting to order. Okay, first thing on the agenda is the agenda. Any updates or changes? Or just hold on. We don't have Dan here.
No, he was out there and now he's gone. So I'm
Okay, we'll just wait a minute or two until Dan.
She was. He was talking to Kayleen, but now they're both gone, so I'm not sure where they went. Donuts.
Donut run.
Still no down though. New countertops on the weekend, down to one sink instead of two. It was a good weekend. She was here first.
She tripped me.
Carried. So first application today is development application 23-164. Len, I see you. Do you want to take one of the chairs up front here, please? You've been down the road before, so you know the drill. Okay, so again, this is 23/164. Becky, do you want to go ahead with that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is in Ward 5, and this is a greenhouse for personal use, development permit number 23/164. The applicant and landowner is Len Blackman. The legal description is Plan 9912673, Block 1, Lot 3, which is at 625 East 1st Street here in Dunmore. The land use district is Hamlet Residential District. So if you'll remember back to October, the proposal at that time was to construct a 300 square foot greenhouse for personal use with the size relaxation for an existing accessory building of 460 square feet and a size relaxation of 620 square feet for total building area of all accessory buildings. The amended proposal for consideration today is to construct a 250 square foot greenhouse for personal use with a size relaxation for an existing accessory building of 460 square feet and a size relaxation of 570 square feet for total building area of all accessory buildings. On October 10th of 2023, the Municipal Planning Commission postponed development permit application 23-164 for 6 months to allow council time to review site requirements for personal use greenhouses in the Hamlet residential districts of the land use bylaw. When the item was presented to council, it was decided that since the land use bylaw would be coming up for review in 2024, this topic could be discussed further as part of that process. As a result, with no firm date for land use bylaw amendments to be completed, administration reached out to Mr. Blackman to determine how he would like to proceed. Mr. Blackman wishes to construct the proposed structure as soon as possible to begin the growing process for his vegetables. Therefore, he has submitted a revised proposal to construct a 250 square foot greenhouse for personal use with a size relaxation for an existing accessory building of 460 square feet and a size relaxation of 570 square feet for the total building area of all accessory buildings. As a reminder, the total site coverage on the property, including the proposal, is 39.9%. However, the applicant has submitted a stormwater management plan to address the overage. Therefore, the proposal is for a relaxation on the building size of an existing structure and for a relaxation on the total building area of all structures combined. Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read the full proposal from October, or is the board comfortable with with the report, and I can move to my recommendations.
Are there any objections from planning committee? Anybody not familiar with presentation of October? Okay, go ahead, we'll exempt that.
Okay. So the recommended motions is, number one, is to refuse development application 23-164, as the proposal does not comply with the maximum total building area of 1,200 square feet and the maximum total building area 1,500 square feet for all accessory buildings, as stated in the Land Use Bylaw 2022-09 in the Hamlet Residential District. And my second motion, or alternative motion, is to approve development permit application 23-164, subject to the following conditions, and with the understanding that it will be constructed as outlined in the submitted application. Any changes must be submitted for approval by the Development Officer or Municipal Planning Commission. Conditions 1 through 1 through 8 are standard development permit conditions. Number 9 is subject to the installation of a 2 cubic meter catchment storage tank along the side of the greenhouse as per the stormwater management plan supplied by Faro Engineering dated May 2nd, 2023. The developer will be required to provide a refundable deposit to ensure compliance with this condition. Number 10, size relaxation of 460 square feet for the existing garage. And number 11, size relaxation of 570 square feet for a total building area of all accessory buildings. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. Brockman, would you like to speak to your application at this time? Red's on.
There we go. Sorry. Yeah, no, I've dropped it another 50 square feet, the actual size of the building. As Becky has noted, any of the rainwater or excess water that would come off the roof of that is going to be collected and reused, obviously. I would just ask that somehow you have some leniency and just let me go ahead and build this little greenhouse. It's like I said, I've dropped it another 50 square feet to, hopefully persuade you guys to say yes to doing it. So,
Thank you. Again, thanks for your patience on the postponement, and hopefully we can address this further through the bylaws. But as it sits today, any more discussion regarding this application? Go ahead, Amanda.
Where is the current garden?
I don't have a current garden.
So where will the vegetables be planted?
Sorry. I haven't planted anything yet. I'm just, I'm waiting to get approval to go ahead and actually go ahead with a greenhouse. I haven't, my thumbs aren't that green quite yet, so.
Nigel, go ahead.
I note you had a letter from your one neighbor who says he had no objection to your proposal. Have you had any feedback from your neighbor on the other side?
I'm still on here, good. Yeah, nobody's given any objection at all. In fact, my neighbor on the left, I don't know the house number, but he's had, for years, he's had a garden, just not a greenhouse. And my neighbor to the direct right of me, the one that gave the letter in support, is he's wanting to do the same thing because he can't stand the price of vegetables these days. So.
Go ahead, Michelle.
A greenhouse is a permitted use, right? But what size does it have to be in order to be permitted?
Becky.
So we do have exempted structures, accessory buildings, so it doesn't have to be a greenhouse. That's 144 square feet. In this case, 144 square feet, he's still over on the existing building, which puts him over on the total area of all accessory buildings. So no matter the size, he's going to be asking for a relaxation.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I will move to not accept this because it's still the overage. That was my issue with it last time. You're over the site coverage. So I move to refuse.
Okay, Michelle, let's move. refusal of, go ahead.
Sorry, just a item of clarification. Is the motion to refuse because it's over the 30% site coverage, or is it because it's over the overall accessory building size? Both, okay.
Okay, so Michelle's moved refusal of development application at 23-164. All those in favor of refusal? Opposed? Carried. So, Mr. Blackman, your development application has been refused because it does not comply with the county's land use bylaw. Copy of the refusal notice will be mailed to you. You will have the ability to appeal this refusal to the Development Appeal Board, following the instructions on the notice that you will receive. Please be advised that you have 3 weeks from the date of the notice to file your appeal. If you don't have any further questions, if you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer after today. Thank you very much. Okay, next up for discussion today is 24/03. Mr. Bowl, would you take one of the chairs up front, please?
Is Aaron Bowl. The subject site is located at 59 Desert Bloom Gate, and the zoning is Recreation Residential Resort District, RRR. And the proposal is to construct a 60 square meter in-ground swimming pool with a 4-meter variance to the rear side yard setback. The proposed relaxation would be 4 meters, as I previously mentioned. The previous DP that approved the dwelling on this site was 06/200, which approved a site coverage of 42.2%. If the in-ground pool is approved, the total site coverage will be approximately 64%. The county has received verification from an engineer in the form of a stamped stormwater management plan that the existing drainage infrastructure has the capacity to handle the additional flows resulting from the 64% site coverage. In accordance with Section 16.61 of the Land Use Bylaw, the Development Authority shall review each development permit application based on its merit and determine its compliance with this bylaw. When a development permit application includes variance requests or discretionary uses, the Development Authority shall assess the applicant of the MGA, unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood, or materially interfere with the effect, the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land. The proposed development conforms with the use prescribed for the land or building in the land use bylaw. Under the land use bylaw, accessory buildings are considered permitted uses providing that the proposal complies with the minimum setback requirements of the district. In the RRR district, section 6.62, the rear setback of a 60.2 accessory structure should have a rear setback of 5.5 meters, 18 feet. The applicant is requesting a 4-meter, 13.1 foot rear setback variance for the in-ground pool. Moving the in-ground pool forward would cause conflicts with existing patio and deck and the house structure itself. The total site coverage for all accessory buildings, including an existing 8.9 square meter shed and the proposed 60.2 square meter in-ground pool, is 69.1 square meters, which is less than what the maximum land use bylaw allows of 139 square meters in the RRR district. There were no referrals for this application. We're recommending approval, Mr. Chairman. Conditions 1 through 6 are standard conditions, and specific conditions to this DP would include a new permit is required if any additional hard servicing is required or proposed. And we're also approving a setback relaxation of 13.1 feet, 4 meters from the rear property line. There's an alternative motion that the MPC refuse development permit 24/03 as the proposal does not comply with section 6.62 of the land use bylaw regarding rear yard setbacks. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Bull, would you like to speak to your application?
Sorry, pictures.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think the main thing that we're over on is the site coverage of our lot. And it's a swimming pool that it will retain water itself. So I know that it does cover, like it's a hard surface that does account for part of the stormwater runoff. But it's a swimming pool that will retain water. So I think the amount of like runoff from the actual pool is minimum compared to that number that you've heard, that I think we're at 60% of our hard surface coverage of our lot. So I just wanted to bring that up. And besides that, I know that I think it's something that's good for our neighborhood. We got lots of kids our neighbors got kids, and there's kids behind us. Then I think it's good for, and the typical maintenance for taking down the water in the pool is to pump the water into an acceptable, system that goes into your home. So for us, it's going into our basement, into a drainage system, but yeah.
Aaron, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I did take some photos of the site, and I'd like to show them to the commission, please.
Sure.
This is the view of the site looking southwest. The next photo, that shows the location of the pool. It's pretty much where that trampoline is, looking west. Northeast, there's that small accessory building I mentioned earlier. Northwest, we're looking north, and we're looking east towards the house. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for updating that. Historically, if I remember correct, we have been giving some relaxations with pools. Has that been the trend?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. In discussion? Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, we've been given a relaxation for the pools. I don't know if we've gone as high on 64% coverage, though. That engineered drawing that's on that, where's the water retained on that property then?
Through the chair, on the engineered drawing, there is a retention area in the, let's see, just trying to get my
look at
points
the
here, in the northwest corner of the lot.
I was looking for it earlier and couldn't find it.
And it's 46 square meters, so based on the engineering report, the detention area so yeah, it's right up there in the northwest corner of the site. So it's 64 square meters that can be detained, and according to the engineer's report, that will slow down the discharge of water so that the drainage infrastructure in the area can handle the site coverage. Thank you.
I guess they stamped it, if there's any water issues coming off for that back, because we do have some issues in Desert Flume for water running off and causing areas that are getting washed out and that, so hopefully it's not in that area. And when your question on the pool, they have to leave water in the pool over the winter so that it doesn't compress back in. It actually holds the pool out.
Oh, I see,
That's why
okay.
they keep it up for the frost and everything.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
Crack and wreck a pool if you don't leave water in it.
gotcha. Okay.
I'll move it.
Dan moves approval of development application 24/03 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So development permit has been approved subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within that time, the permit will become valid. If you have any further questions, you can discuss them with the development officer after today's meeting. Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Okay, next on the agenda is Development Application 2412, Brad Frederick. Do you want to take your chair, please? You know the drill. Okay, good. Okay, so just so we're clear, you push the button there, it turns red, and then when you're requested to speak. Okay. All right, so this is, again, 2412. Aaron, do you want to take this one, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposal is for an agricultural operation, primary, a tree farm, located in Ward 7, located at number 2712029 Range Road 74. The zoning is agriculture A2. The applicant is requesting approval from the MPC for an existing tree farming operation as an agricultural operation primary use with a variance. The trees are proposed to be set back roughly 12.8 meters from the center line of Road 74. This would require a 7.2 meter, 23.6 setback variance from the center line of Range Road 24. The site area is 44.15 acres, 17.8 hectares, and is zoned, as I said before, A2 in the land use bylaw. The subject site is located on Range Road 74 and is approximately 1.2 kilometers south of Highway 523. The property is located outside of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan area. Agriculture operations primary are permitted use in the Agriculture District 2. However, the proposed variance is larger than the 10% that can be approved by the development officer, and as such, this application must be presented to MPC for decision. The applicant states that approximately 20 customers will visit the site seasonally, with peak visitors attending the site during spring and fall. The applicant is proposing to employ 2 off-site employees. Passenger cars and pickup trucks will access the site, and there's an existing 4-foot by 8-foot freestanding sign for the tree farm located in the northwest of the property near Range Road 74. In accordance with 16.61 of the Land Use Bylaw, the Development Authority shall review each permit based on its merit and determine its compliance with the bylaw. And they can grant variances if it will not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with the effect, use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land, and the proposed development conforms with the prescribed use in that land use district. Land use bylaw review. In the land use bylaw review in the A2 district, an agricultural operation primary is a permitted use. However, the proposed 7.2 meter, 23.6 foot variance from the center line of Range Road 73 will require approval from MPC. Under section 22.2 of the land use bylaw, under the definitions, an agricultural operation primary is defined as an agricultural activity conducted on agricultural land for gain or reward in the hope or expectation of gain or reward, including but not limited to a whole bunch of things, including tree farms. So the list is very, very, very long, so I'll skip ahead a bit. So section 13.5 of the land use bylaw states, shelter belts shall conform to the setback requirements as specified in the applicable land use district. The A2 district imposes a minimum setback of 20 meters from the center line of a service road right-of-way. The general purpose and intent of the A2 district is to protect and enhance the agricultural production of products, goods, and support services and compatible land uses. The proposed tree farming operation meets the definition of agricultural operations primary in the land use bylaw and is aligned with the purpose and intent of the A2 district. We referred this to the St. Mary's River Irrigation District, and they had no comments. We also referred this to Public Works, and they noted that a setback of 20 meters from the center line is required. The trees are at 15 meters, so they are recommending that as trees get harvested, that no new trees be planted within that 20-meter setback. And also, PW noted that if the road is ever upgraded in the future, trees may have to be removed. So our recommended motion is approval. Conditions 1 through 7 are standard conditions. Conditions 8 through 12 are specific to this DP. Condition 8 would require existing trees within the required 20-meter setback from Range Road 74 Service Road are harvested, that no new trees be planted within the required 20 meters. The developer owner may be requested to remove or relocate trees at their own expense if there's any future road upgrades to that Range Road 74 Service Road. That's condition 9. Number 10, the existing 4x8 freestanding sign is approved, and additional signs will require new permits. And it's subject to, condition 11, subject to 2 employees. Any additional employees will require prior approval from the county. And condition 12, the permit is subject to annual review. And we also have an alternative recommendation that MPC refuse DP 2412 as the proposal does not comply with section 5.52 of the land use bylaw, and that would involve setbacks from the road center line. And I do have some photos. Okay, this is an aerial photo of the site. And here I am on the site looking east. Next one, I'm looking south. Next photo, I'm looking southeast down Range Road 74 Service Road. So you can see some trees over to the right. And we're looking west, and off in the distance you can see adjacent landowners. And that's the 4 foot by 8 foot sign that is existing on the site. And the next photo shows looking northwest, it shows adjacent properties off in the distance. And we're looking north. There's another adjacent property there. And that's it. And that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Mr. Frederick, would you like to speak to your application at this time?
Yes, thank you. Regarding the setback of the trees, you know, we're going to be harvesting here or moving trees coming in the next month, depending on Mother Nature. So we can put a lot of focus on those trees that are within the setback and move those out. Any future planting that we do, we definitely will stay back of the setback that's required by the county. So I feel we can move majority of those trees this spring and just get back into the regulated setback.
Okay. Well, that sounds logical. We're probably one of the only counties that don't have trees up to almost every property line. Not a problem we have. Anyways, I will open for discussion. Oh, okay. That's so much for that. Really? Okay, so Lloyd moves approval of 2412 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So the development permit will be, permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously presented. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within that time, it will become valid. If you have any further questions, you can talk to the development officers after today's meeting to discuss them. Thank you very much. Mr. Paul. Take a chair, please. Okay, so next up for discussion on the agenda is 24/15, Jordan Paul application. Go ahead, Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This application is located in Ward 7. It's for a mechanic business. The applicant is Jordan Paul and the landowner is Shane Rhodes. The site's located at 6425 Township Road 120. It's zoned A2. The applicant is requesting approval from MPC to use an existing shop building located at 6425 Township Road 120 for a mechanic business. The applicant is proposing to service agricultural equipment, including but not limited to tractors and semi-trucks. A maximum of 4 units will be on the site at a time. The applicant will ensure that vehicles are contained within the shop and outdoor parking of vehicles will be limited. The applicant is a sole staff member. Hours of operation are proposed to be between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday and Friday, with occasional evenings and weekends. The applicant is proposing a 24-inch by 12-inch business sign to be located on the gate, the entry gate to the site. The zoning of the subject site is Agriculture District 2 in the Land Use Bylaw. Automotive equipment and vehicle servicing is not listed as a use in the A2 district. However, the proposed use is aligned with the definition and general purpose of the A2 district. The proposed use would be categorized as an other use in the Land Use Bylaw, which would be a discretionary Class 2 in the A2 district and would require MPC approval. It should be noted that 3 previous mechanic businesses have been approved on the site over the years. The first was approved way back in 1978 as 78/80, the second in 2007 as 07/248, and the third mechanical business was approved as DP 10/86. So there's a history of this type of use on this site. In accordance with section 16.61 of the Land Use Bylaw, Development Authority shall review each DP application based on merit and determine its compliance with this bylaw. So variances can be granted if the commission does not believe that it will unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere with the effect, use of enjoyment or value of the neighboring parcels of land, and the proposed development conforms with the use prescribed for the land or building in the Land Use Bylaw. When doing a Land Use Bylaw review, as I mentioned before, automotive equipment and vehicle sales is not specifically listed as a permitted or discretionary use in the A2 district. Land Use Bylaw 22/09 has a category called Other Uses. Other uses is defined in section 22.2 of the Land Use Bylaw as uses that are consistent with the definition or general purpose of the applicable land use district as approved by the appropriate development authority. The definition and general purpose of the Agriculture A2 district as defined in section 5.2 of the Land Use Bylaw is the general purpose and intent of the Agriculture District 2 is to protect and enhance the agriculture production of products, goods, services, and support services and compatible land uses. The mechanical servicing of agriculture-related vehicles and machinery would have synergies with the production of agriculture products, goods, and support services, and therefore staff believe that this use would be aligned with the definition and general purpose of the A2 district and may be considered an other use under the Land Use Bylaw. This application was circulated to various agencies. We circulated it to our Public Works Department, and they had no comments regarding this proposal. We also circulated this to Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors, and their comments involved, they want us to meet the ALSA plan if applicable, pursuant to 618.4 of the MGA. The department expects that the municipality will mitigate the impacts of traffic generated by development approved on the local road connections to the highway system according to Policy 7 and provincial land use policies. Transportation and Economic Corridors has the following additional comments and or requirements with respect to this proposal. The proponent is hereby notified that the Highway 316 future twinning west of 7 persons to Range Road 63 final report prepared by Stantec Engineering and Land Services dated November 6, 2013 identifies that the proposed development falls within the area of future upgrades to Highway 3 as illustrated on the enclosed figure on the enclosed plan that they sent, which may include the removal of access to Highway 3. For both Township Road 120 and Range Road 65, please note there's currently no exact timing or funding commitment for that project, so that's in the future. A roadside development application from Alberta Transportation will be required for the proposed development. the applicant would need to apply for a roadside development permit. So that would be the second comment from Alberta Transportation. Our recommended motion is approval of the proposed use. Conditions 1 through 9 are standard, or 1 through 10 is standard conditions. Condition 11 would be specific. Regular hours of operation are approved as Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with occasional work done in evenings and weekends. The applicant is the only employee. Additional employees will require prior approval from the county. That's condition 12. Condition 13, a maximum of 4 vehicles being stored on site. Additional vehicle storage will require prior approval from the county. 1 sign is approved to be placed on the gate. Any additional signs placed on the property advertising this business will require another permit. Condition number 15, the applicant is responsible to obtain approval from Alberta Motor Vehicle Industry Council, AMVIC. A copy of the approval is to be submitted to Cypress County. And our alternative motion would be refuse the DP 2415 as the proposal does not meet the definition and general purpose of section 5.2 of the land use bylaw. And I did take some photos of this site. Okay, so we're looking southwest. This is the area where vehicles might be stored from time to time. In the next photo, we're looking south. In the next photo, we're looking southeast, which is where the business will be located in the building. Next building, we're looking east again, the parking area. And that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Aaron. Jordan, would you like to speak to your application at this time? You can just push the button there.
No, I have no further comment.
Okay, thank you. I'm familiar with this area. I know there's a lot of commercial uses have been undertaken in that area in the past, and I don't think it's going to make any changes in our area personally, but you have a discussion?
No, I don't have a problem with it either, especially if it's been a mechanic shop 3 times before.
Yeah. I mean, there's been discussion in the past whether this should be, you know, rezoned, this little development over there, but I mean, that's not for today's discussion, but it's definitely, there's I think 2 commercial buildings there for sure that are rented out and used as non-agricultural buildings, but I don't think, you know, that corner of that property, if you can see there's a pivot on the southwest portion of that property, I don't see that ever, you know, being developed as irrigated land or anything up in that corner anyway, so it's not really an issue. Okay. Nigel moves approval of a development application 24/15 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of the permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within that time, the development will become valid. If you have any further questions, you can contact the development officer after today's meeting to discuss them. Thanks, Jordan. We're ahead of schedule. Brian, do you expect anybody else? Just me. Or do you want to come on up? Okay, so next on the agenda is subdivision application 24/CY01. Warren Schneider, 1273051 Alberta Limited. Becky, do you want to take this one, please?
I sure do. So this is an agricultural subdivision in Ward 7. As you said, the owner is 1273051 Alberta Limited, and the applicant is Brian Monroe. This is located on Range Road 73, approximately 8.7 kilometers north of Seven Persons, at southeast 412-7 west of the 4th. It is currently zoned Agricultural District 2, and the proposal is to subdivide a 6-hectare parcel containing an existing residence and yard site to create a separate title for a family member. This application is intended to subdivide a 6-hectare or 14.8 acre agricultural parcel from an unsubdivided quarter section for the purposes of creating a farmstead separation for the existing residence and yard site. The remainder of the agricultural title contains dryland pasture and is 58.9 hectares or 145.79 acres in size. There are no oil or gas wells in proximity to the proposed subdivision. The proposed subdivision area contains an existing residence, barn, shop, and a dugout. The current water source is a cistern, and the residence utilizes a septic tile field. The proposed subdivision gains direct and immediate access from an existing approach from Range Road 73. It appears that the remainder of the agricultural title does not have an access approach. Therefore, the Municipal Planning Commission, as a condition of subdivision approval, may need to consider a subdivision approval condition for the installation of a road approach from Range Road 73 or from Township Road 120 to the remnant lands. However, as a note, upon a site inspection of the property, it was determined that there are multiple existing access approaches to the remnant agricultural title. The proposed subdivision will result in the first title to be taken out of the quarter section. A residence could still be developed on the remainder of the agricultural title, and the proposed subdivision is located outside of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan boundary. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that municipalities are to identify their agricultural land and to limit fragmentation and conversion to non-agricultural uses. Under the implementation section of the plan, Section 5, Efficient Use of Land, it states that the land use framework promotes approaches to reduce the amount of land that is taken up by permanent or long-term development by utilizing the minimum amount of land necessary. Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority may not require the owner of a parcel of land that is subject of a proposed subdivision to provide reserve if one lot is to be created from a quarter section of land. Part 2.9 Road Access of the Subdivision Regulations of the Municipal Government Act states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority to each lot that is created. Section 4.1.21 of the Municipal Development Plan states that the county may support the subdivision of an existing farmstead or single vacant parcel if the following conditions are met. The agricultural parcel remains the balance of the quarter section. The subdivision will not impact or hinder the agricultural use on the balance of the quarter section. The subdivision parcel size for an existing farmstead is based on the area incorporating the farm dwelling and the accessory buildings and structures, unless there are physical or topographic features which define a more practical, larger parcel. The subdivision of the existing farmstead or the single vacant parcel retain the same agricultural land use district as the remnant. And both the existing farmstead or single vacant parcel and the remnant agricultural parcel have direct or shared easement access to the existing municipal road network or provincial highway. And utility easements may be required between the proposed parcel and the remainder of the agricultural title. So, of course, we circulated the application. Cypress County Finances replied that the property is not subject to any local improvements. Planning and Development replied that the proposed subdivision is intended to subdivide an existing residence and yard site and is the first parcel to be subdivided from the remainder of the quarter section. The area of the subdivision follows the established fence lines and complies with the maximum parcel sizes requirements of the land use bylaw. The remainder of the quarter section is fragmented by overland drainage area, which separates the westerly area of the quarter section from the east. The area immediately west of the proposed subdivision slopes towards this right-of-way. The opportunity to utilize this right-of-way as the boundary of an agricultural subdivision was discussed with the landowner, however, was not preferred. The proposed subdivision complies with the subdivision farmstead provisions of the Municipal Development Plan and is consistent with other similar approvals which have been granted in the past. Cypress County Public Works replied that there are 3 access approaches available for the remnant agricultural title located on both Range Road 73 and Township Road 120. TELUS Communications replied that they have no concerns with the proposed activities. Fortis Alberta replied that they are the distribution wire service provider for the area and that no easement is required. Equus replied that they provide wire services to this area and have no objections to the proposed subdivision. St. Mary River Irrigation District replied that they have reviewed the application and they have no comments or concerns regarding the proposed subdivision. Westside Water Co-op replied that they do not have any water lines or service registered to this parcel of land. And Alberta Historical Resources replied that they have reviewed the caption subdivision application and determined that in this instance, Formal Historical Resources Act approval is not necessary, and the submission of our application is not required. So that takes me to my recommendation, which is approval, and subject to just one condition, which is our standard condition. The developer is required to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, or agreements which are to be registered as a requirement for any affected utilities to Cypress County prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Becky. Brian, would you like to speak to this application?
No, I have nothing to add. There's been plenty of discussion on this in the past. So Becky has everything covered in here, and I have nothing to add. Just questions if you wish.
I have one. How many acres are irrigated on this parcel?
How many are?
Irrigated. Water right acres.
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth. I think it's all dry land. I'm not so sure that he's irrigating.
I thought he had wheel lines on the north portion of that parcel in the past, like that was the previous owner.
Yeah, we never surveyed any actual irrigated area. To tell you the truth.
Because I think like a part, like that dugout at the north end of the subdivision, for some reason I think there was wheel lines up there. You can see where it was cultivated, see the lines where it's been cultivated in the past,
Yes.
the northeast portion of the quarter?
Yes. Yeah, as far as I know, anything within the parcel itself that we're trying to subdivide out, I don't think there's been any irrigation done in there itself. I think it's just some pasture for the horses. That's why it's fenced off the way it is.
Because on the west portion of that the parcel, the pivot does swing into that, right? From the southwest quarter, you can see that partial circle there. So there are water rights on this quarter. I think it would be important to determine, how many.
Yeah, I can't answer that question. Honestly, I don't know what the irrigated acres are. But yeah, I do see what you mean, but from the southwest quarter.
Yeah, my main concern is between the road, or the yard and the road. It looks like that was formerly cultivated land too. I mean, my concern is we don't have some irrigated acres in that portion that we'll be losing.
Well, he has that all fenced off now. Like the north boundary of the subdivision is all fenced for the yard itself. And as I said, they've got a few horses there that they just graze off the grass that's there right now.
Kayleen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yeah, during our site inspection, we noted that there was wheel move on the northeast of 4, so the quarter to the north. We didn't witness any wheel move infrastructure on the southeast. And when we circulate to St. Mary's River Irrigation District, if there is water rights associated, they'll commonly let us know that as a result of the subdivision, there has to be irrigable acres sold or transferred. They didn't do that in this case. So that leads us to believe that there are no acres on that parcel.
I see what you're trying to say, Wade, but still, it's to cut that out and do it and keep those in, it would just make a mess of that, and for setbacks and everything.
I understand that. I think it's imperative, though, for the decision-making process, for maybe future reference, that we determine how many acres irrigated in a parcel, what percentage of it are, and if we're removing a piece of that parcel, that we're not taking away land that could be irrigated without being able to transfer to another area. You know, there's that big draw that goes through here, and pretty rough topography. I know that quarter, and I just, that east half of the quarter is the only irrigable portion, and the circle portion of the southwest. So, I mean, maybe not for this case, but in the future, I think we need to really be clear on how many acres are irrigated, and if that irrigation envelope can still be successfully farmed if the subdivision is approved.
And that is one of the reasons, too, why we had the discussion on using that canal right-of-way as a subdivision boundary, because in essence, you're keeping that whole east half as one parcel. So for continuity, it allows for that to be farmed in a more productive manner. We did have that discussion, but that wasn't the intention at this point. But that would be a subdivision that would be supported under the municipal development plan as well.
If I remember correctly, this may have been flood irrigated. And you could kind of see ditching that would indicate that probably was flood irrigated at one point in time. I know Rick Dawson did do some flood and some wheels and some pivot irrigation on that, his section there. Okay, maybe it's not an issue here, but I think we need to make sure in the future that we're not, removing the irrigability of the quarter section or a portion of it with the subdivision. I think that's important. Any other discussion?
I'll move it.
So Dan moves approval of subdivision application 24CY01 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so the subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your subdivision approval. You're advised to begin working towards the necessary conditions. You have 1 year from the subdivision approval date to have met the approval conditions and to have the subdivision plans submitted to Alberta Titles. If you have any further questions, you may contact the planner after today's meeting.
Very good.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks for your help.
So if I may continue a little bit on that tact, I think it would be important for us for future decision-making that maybe staff undertakes the irrigation, obtaining the irrigation acres for these parcels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's why we commonly rely on SMRID, because they have access to that information, right? So when we circulate, we hope that they're providing us with that information to form part of our decision. We could maybe go back to the SMRID and ask them to perhaps comment on future applications about irrigable acres and how many acres are assigned. Maybe there's further information that they could provide us. So we can definitely check into that with them and see if we can provide further information.
So for a parcel like that, it's common you'd see that, okay, it's a 160 acre parcel, but there's 82 acres irrigated. Well, okay, now we know that draws not irrigated and all of that, so then, it's something that we can look at, because if we were to take out part of that potential irrigation area, that's a big issue. So they need, I think if you ask for their input and provide irrigated acres for the parcel, I think they would, anybody can phone SMRID any day and get irrigated acres on a parcel. They don't have maps, like the EID has really good interactive maps. You go and you look at their interactive map and you can get the irrigated acres on any parcel and the location of the acres.
And that's what I was just going to share. Back in the day, the SMRID used to provide us with a map that showed the hatched area of what was currently under irrigation. We stopped receiving those, right? So maybe we can go back to that and see if they can provide us further detail.
I think it's important because, it is designated where the water right acres are on the parcel. And so is it transferable? Can you move them? Is the soil classifications, okay for moving that to another location on the parcel. So anyways, that's my input. I think it's, yeah, okay. Thanks very much. Okay, next on the agenda, we will do the planner's report, fairly extensive one this time. So, any discussion?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Our church on the 120, have we got the assessment back or the traffic assessment back on that yet?
Yeah, so I have two updates for the church on Township Road 120. The first issue that we were working with the church on was obtaining their building permits. So what's happened is the Alberta Safety Codes Authority has issued a temporary building permit till December of this year, pending drawings to be submitted by their architect. So they are working towards that. They have temporary permits to be operating out of that building. And the second half to that is that we did receive the traffic impact assessment. It has been accepted by Alberta Transportation, and our Public Works Department has reviewed it. And in accordance with the recommendation from the traffic impact assessment, there's two access approaches currently going into that site from Township Road 120. We are asking that one of the approaches be removed and that the easterly access be widened to meet our guidelines. So that's for access management off of Township Road 120, funneling all that traffic to the one approach rather than the ingress egress as they're operating now.
That makes sense.
Is there a timeline on that to be done then?
I'm in conversation with the pastor there, and we're currently working that out in terms of the timeline that they will accomplish that.
So they have the services in one of the old outbuildings, one of the farm outbuildings, sir?
Correct.
Oh, okay. The big riding, used to be a riding arena, small riding arena.
Yeah, so they've been accommodating, they've been responsive, so that is a good thing. But you're absolutely right, it's a matter of setting timelines and holding them to those timelines.
Well, yeah, because if we would have made them do all this before they got their permit, they would be a little quicker on getting it done. And the other one was the appeal. How did that go for?
So if the Planning Commission noticed, there was two decisions that came out. The first decision indicated that the permit has been revoked, and then it said the number of conditions. And then there was the revision that came out saying that they had varied the MPC's decision. So the permit stands. However, the SDAB added a condition for hours of operation to that permit, and they also reduced the number of horses back to what she was previously allowed to have, so they reduced it back down to 9 from 10. Through the chair, Becky, do you have anything else that you wanted to add on the appeal side of things?
Yeah, I guess I can answer any questions if you have any, but we've continued to receive complaints from neighboring properties regarding the business. So we've just continued to monitor, and we've been in close contact with the owner of the business, with keeping in compliance with her conditions and the new conditions that have come up. So we're just trying to help her through that and document any complaints that have come in, which will be presented to the board during annual review, or if something urgent comes up sooner to you.
So from a procedural perspective, the SDAB has ruled on this. The next annual review, we could still decline the permit, right? Or does SDAB take precedence on that? For how long? We have annual review on that, absolutely.
Not on the first one. On this new permit, there's annual review.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she would be operating under the new permit. So under the new conditions, would stand, and that's what we would bring forward to annual review. So at annual review stage, when we bring forward the updates to you, if there's been nonstop complaints for the whole year and we've been able to prove that she's in contravention of her new permit and her new conditions, and the board at that time, the MPC, could make decisions whether any actions need to be taken at that time.
So is it multiple opposition? When it was presented here, there was one person, one neighbor opposing it. Is it multiple now?
There was a small group at the appeal hearing that were opposed to it.
Yeah, so how it works is there's one submitted appeal, and then landowners can kind of tack on to that one appeal, right? So we'll provide notice of the appeal, and then any landowners that want to speak in favor or against the appeal would be able to attend. But there was one filed appeal.
Okay, well, it's... are you done, Dan? I had a question as well. The roundtable planning meeting, can you give us a breakdown on what happened there and what the discussion is?
Yeah, so at our roundtable planning meetings, I'm glad you asked, because they've been on here for a while. I was waiting for someone to ask me about it. We go over the upcoming Planning Commission agenda. We talk about the applications that are coming forward. Is there any additional information that we need to include? And then we also do an update of what the department is working on internally to kind of keep up to speed. We have a GIS tech as well as an infrastructure technician that work upstairs. They commonly don't see the Planning Commission meetings, and that's a way for us to kind of keep them apprised of what the department's working on. So commonly we'll discuss ongoing enforcement issues and how we can kind of support that process with Aaron. There was a lot of that discussion this last meeting. Yeah, that kind of sums it. Part of those meetings too, we have a safety moment to remind everybody for safety and to remind everybody of safety policies and procedures.
I have another question regarding the policy from the AUC, the renewables policy. It states there viewscapes. Do we have any designated viewscapes in the county? And where are they?
We do, but we're still waiting on the province to essentially dictate what pristine viewscapes means, because we've heard third party, not directly from the province, but we've heard that it only applies to federally or national parks, so Jasper and Banff. But that hasn't been put out by the province in any way. But Elkwater Provincial Park certainly would be one. We have a map that shows there's some up north. Yeah, Hargrave Coulee is another one. It's an extensive area, and if we apply that buffer to all of those areas, it leaves a very slim area of land kind of surrounding the city, which is all irrigation, right? They can't locate on irrigable land either. But the thing about it is that those buffer zones only apply to applications that weren't already approved. We have numerous applications that have already gone through that process. So how much it'll actually affect us?
Right. The approved sites will not be affected. It's not retroactive, is it?
No.
So it's going forward.
Correct.
So we've got Wild Rose 1 and Wild Rose 2 that have not been to AUC yet, correct?
Wild Rose 2 has, however, I believe they're seeking an amendment to their approval. So there's kind of a bit of a gray area that they're seeking essentially a revised approval. So are they subject to that buffer zone?
Yeah.
You know, so those are some of the fine details that we need for the province to clarify.
35K would take out all of everything between the number 1 and Cypress Hills, right?
Correct.
Holy.
Yeah.
Well, south is all crown land down there, so it's not probably and pasture. It's probably not going to happen there. Yeah, and they removed class 1 and 2 soils, so that leaves that's a real narrow area of application, isn't it?
It is. And once we receive some of those certainties from the province, we can bring back a map for the Planning Commission that shows those areas specifically and where they apply to.
Well, Okay. The capacity of this 240 kVA line might not be an issue anymore, eh? Because they were looking at curtailments based on that. Interesting, okay. Yeah, viewscapes is a very, subjective opinion, so I think until they come out with an actual definition, everybody's kind of in limbo, right?
And the province is still working on Module B of their review. So Module B pertained to the transmission regulation specifically. And so I think that has to be outdated to the minister by, I think, the end of March. And so we had a meeting regarding the Blue Bridge Solar last week. They fall outside of the area that's inundated with applications, so they're fine up north. But they too are on hold until this Module B comes out from the province, because it creates a little bit of uncertainty for them what they're looking at for funding and stuff. So, but Blue Bridge Solar, last we heard from them, is they're moving forward. So, are we done on that topic? Did you have any other questions?
Yeah.
I have an update as well. It's not included in the report because last week we had to finalize some of the venue selections. But we will be hosting 3 open houses concerning the land use bylaw review. And we can send an email out to the Planning Commission to advise you of those. But we will be having them Thursday through Saturday, April 4th, 5th, and 6th. One of the sessions will be held here at the county office April 4th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. We will be at 7 Persons Community Hall Friday, April 5th from 10 a.m. till 2. And then we're also going out to the Urban Community Resource Center Saturday, April 6th from 10 till 2. And so this is the open houses to kick off our land use bylaw review. We haven't made any amendments. We're wanting to hear feedback from the community. And so that's our stage at this point.
All right, any further discussion on the planner's report?
I'll move it.
Michelle moves the planner's report as presented. All those in favor? Carried. This is one of your bigger reports, actually. So there's lots of meat to that. I guess that's it. I think we've covered it all. Okay, so the next meeting, Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. I adjourn the meeting.